Hey everybody, Tony D with another hot take, and I guess you can call this one your Antifa update. So remember the guy in Utah, Provost, Utah? He shot into a car. Well, the organizer of that protest, if you can call it a protest, it's really a riot. Um, he went on to continue to protest even after one of the guys in his group shot into a car. Well, not only has the shooter been picked up, and I believe he's been picked up, the organizer of the protest, because it wasn't a protest when people are shooting in the cars. So he is criminally liable. He organized, he created this opportunity and something bad happened, and yeah, that's what happens. That's what happens when you allow a protest to turn into a riot in which you attack cars and people. So I have no sympathy for him going to jail. I hope he gets a lot of years. I don't think he'll get that many because, he's been charged with starting a riot or something like that. One of those kind of nebulous sort of charges that I'm sure it'll be like a fine or a few days in jail or whatever. I don't think he'll do too much time if he does. I'd like to see him do like a year. I think that's worth a year. Creating the conditions for a riot in which someone got shot. I mean, the driver actually got shot. I didn't realize they got hit the last time I reported it. In other Antifa news, the Minneapolis Police Department, as you know, is being defunded completely, as my understanding. And already 10% of the Minneapolis PD has either walked off the job, or they've got the blue flu, or they're using up all their 6 days, or they're on their way out, retiring or whatever. Could you blame them? And the ironic thing is, the governor of Minnesota, where Minneapolis is located, asked the federal government for $16 billion in federal funds to fix, the damage in Minneapolis. And the federal government said no. Good for you, Trump. We shouldn't be forking out money to pay those idiots for letting their city burn. And they let the city burn. Okay? Trump offered them the National Guard, said they'd come in there, close all that BS down. It was entertained by the mayor far too long. He humiliated himself. He didn't even win in the end. That's the dumbest part of this whole thing. You think the mayor of Minneapolis, the mayor of Seattle, I almost said the Chaz, the mayor of Portland, these guys would be lauded by these people, carried around on a litter by Antifa guys saying, yay, we finally got a mayor who understands us. Instead, they get screwed. They get totally screwed. Speaking of the mayor of Portland, despite his rising crime rate, he just cut another squad of his officers. I think it was called the Gun Violence Reduction Unit or something. Cut, gone. As violence spikes, he's cutting the police. So go figure. Get out of Portland. Get out of these cities, because these guys are willing to sacrifice it all. I wonder how smart they'll think they'll be when the drug kingpins finally run out of people to shake down and decide to hit, hey, let's go over to that giant house. Dude, that's the mayor's house. So what? Looks like it's pretty plush. I think he's got some money. And the mayor of Portland lives in a condo. They even camped out. They even built the Chaz right in front of his condo. He shut that down, right? Because, these guys have to do that. But he's still letting... Portland has had like 40 straight days of riots. I was just on the Andy No Twitter feed. It's just a disgrace what's going on there. there was an Antifa member. He took a hammer and he was trying to break into a courthouse. He was hammering away at a door, like just chipping away at it. And he was finally making some progress. So the cops said, "Oh, we got to get him." So cops came at him, and he actually assaulted one of the cops with the hammer, is my understanding. All alleged. Well, he got his ass arrested, so he's going to be doing some time, I think. You assault an officer with a deadly weapon? What are you, out of your mind? Where do you think that's going to go? Oh, you're done. You're done. You're not going to do a tiny amount of time for that. That ain't going to be community service, hitting a police officer with a hammer. That's years. That's assault. That's assault with a deadly weapon against a police officer. And I'm sure they got another litany of charges. Let's rattle them off. Resisting arrest, failing to obey an officer, causing damage on federal property. I'm sure there'll be a whole laundry list of extra charges in there just to juice it, make it nice and juicy for you. Do you really think the prosecutors are going to let this guy go? I don't think so. I think when you assault a officer, is that a federal charge? I don't know if it is. And I don't think they can let that one go. Although it's Portland. I mean, a lot of these prosecutors are just as socialist as some of these kids, crazy enough. I don't know how you get to be a prosecutor and also be a socialist. Such a socialist that you're going to let these maniacs go and run amok in the streets to assault people again. I mean, what's the plan there? What's the plan there, prosecutors and city council? If you think you just let enough of these kids go, eventually you'll get a socialist paradise? They're destroying the city. They're destroying your city. Do you think they're going to stop if you get elected mayor? They're not going to stop. That's not the point of Marxism. That's not the plan of Antifa. Their plan has been very clear. They want to destabilize the entire country. That would include your city. So to destabilize the entire country would require at least first destabilizing the city. And if you saw what went on in Chaz, you got a little sneak peek on what your city would be like if it was completely destabilized. So you would have guys running around with guns, a bunch of randos who answer to no one, harassing people on the street, shaking them down for money, and shooting and killing them. They've already killed people. They killed people in the Chaz, and you had to shut it down. What do you think's going to happen? Do you think there's going to be any law and order? Do you think you'll be safe? You are the least safe if they manage to take the city, because the next thing they have to do is make sure there's no government. Because once there's no government, well, then they own the city. Everybody owns the city. Well, really, it'll be the drug kingpins that take it, but these Antifa guys think they'll be in charge. They won't be. They don't have enough guns or enough people or enough moxie to take on these drug kingpins. They'll just kill them. The drug kingpins will kill these people or use them. A lot of them will be smart enough to use them. You got a handful of guys from Redneck Revolt, which is like an Antifa group, who are actually armed and they got a little bit of training, but there's not enough of them. You would need hundreds of them. Do you have any idea? Look at what happened to the Chaz. The Chaz was only 6 city blocks basically wide, and they couldn't control it. It was a nightmare. If the whole city goes that way, I mean, you're talking about the destruction of your public transport system. You're talking about no food coming into the city. Eventually, your infrastructure starts to break down. There'll be no electricity, no running water. Then there'll be disease and death on a scale not seen in one of these major cities before. I mean, that doesn't even include the burning down of buildings by angry rioters who have no idea what they're doing. And at some point, they'll just send in the National Guard to kill all of you. I mean, at that point, and you definitely don't have enough guns to go up against them, they'll just go door to door until they capture all of you. I guess you could all load up in a car and load up whatever guns and booty you get and try to escape to somewhere else, but they'll catch up to you eventually. But it's never even going to get that far. You understand? It's not going to get to the point where you destabilize an entire city. Yeah, Minneapolis looked that way, but it's back now. They're not going to let it burn. The governors, they can't let it burn. I mean, they can't let it go that far. They've let it go too far, but they can't let it go that far again. They're starting to learn their lesson. And at some point, the Democrats are going to turn on you. They're going to get the memo eventually, and the word's going to go out, no, we're done with these morons. Knock them out. Get rid of them. Cut them off. Tell our media mavens that Antifa is bad. Why isn't Trump doing something about Antifa? They'll start saying. And then it'll all really be over. I mean, right now it doesn't seem like it's over because you still got idiots in the media saying, well, Antifa, it doesn't exist. Meanwhile, they're being arrested and scooped up for all sorts of terrible charges. They're going to do 10 years for trying to tear down Andrew Jackson. Oh, but they don't exist, except that they do, and there's all sorts of branches of them. They're going to be in big trouble. So if you're at Antifa, I urge you to get out. Get out now. Burn the hoodie. Cancel your accounts on Twitter and Facebook and all those social media organizations. Get off of them and disappear. Just disappear virtually from these people and don't contact them ever again. Because once they start going after your cells, the individual cells, it's only going to take one guy in your cell. And you know the guy, the crazy guy, the guy who's actually going to do some of the stuff that you talked about in the meeting that time that you thought, he's not going to do that. Oh, yeah, he does it. And if you supported him in any way and you're linked to him, they'll get you on some sort of conspiracy charge. If, God forbid, he kills somebody or hurts somebody, you could go to jail too. Or they'll drag you in the court. And then you'll get to testify. And then what will happen? Everybody in the organization will turn against you and try to get at you. You don't think it's going to happen. But that's exactly what has happened with these organizations for years. For decades, hundreds of years. Criminal organizations always go down like this. You don't think you're in a criminal organization? You are. You're committing crimes. And some people have committed bigger crimes and they have more at stake because if you go to jail, well, you do community service because you knocked over a trash can and wrote BLM on a Starbucks. Those guys shot at people. Those guys are going to prison. Those guys burned a police car. They're going to prison. They're going to do everything they can to not go to prison, including threaten you or do something to you if they have to. If you're not going to keep your word to not talk to the cops, and then you're going to have a decision to make. Oh my God, I got to testify to these guys or I'll go to prison. That's the way it works. Get out now.